Okay, we're up to the last parak in Masechtas Yevamot, Daf Kuf Yotes. We've been discussing the sugyas of agunis, women going overseas, the belief that her husband's dead, to permit a woman to remarry. So a woman with her co-wife, with a tzara, goes over the seas. They come, and they say to her, right? They say that what, your husband's died. So loitis tinase, the loitis yabim, ache teda shemamu beres. In other words, she heard that her husband died. Okay, so now there's a belief. So she is now falling to Atiba. Maybe she didn't have any children, and the Tsara didn't have any children. But the Tsara, it doesn't say that Tsara died. The Tsara could be pregnant. If the Tsara is pregnant, she doesn't fall to Ibam. So therefore, it's loitis tinase, loitis yabim. The Gemara is going to ask, why don't you go do chalitza? The Gemara is asking, why don't we do chalitza? Until acheteda shemamu beres, heat sarasa. She's had Sarah. It's a very funny line. What does that mean? Heat sarasa. It seems to be totally extraneous. Why? What's heat sarasa? The Gemara will explain. Okay. Another din haisala chamus. She is in the category of she only has a husband, and there is no other brother, and she has no child. So there's no yibum because there's no one to fall to. Okay. However, haisala chamus. She has a mother-in-law that I guess goes overseas. Now the question is, the mother-in-law, I assume, is of childbearing age. Maybe the mother-in-law had a child and now she has a yavam. Right? Now she has a yavam. So Einachai Sheshes, you're not what? What? Maybe she gave birth before. You gave birth before. Right. Einachai Sheshes. However, Yotza Malaya, if she went out, Malaya meaning when she was pregnant, then Chesheshes, she would be Chayish. Rabbi Shua Omer Ein Chesheshes. Rabbi Yehuda says you would not be Chayish. Well, let's see some Rashis over here. What?
Even she was expecting.
She's what he said. Even she was expecting, not Chayish. Even expecting. Let's see Rashi why. Let's see the last case, the last wide line. Haisalah Chamus, the Medina Hayam. She has a mother-in-law in Medina Hayam. When the mother-in-law left, ben. Then Yibam Lizu. Nonetheless, maybe the mother-in-law provided a yavam. Even though we were chayish shema yolded Sarah, even though we were chayish that perhaps that Sarah had a child, hasam hu dechoma the yolded Sarah bein zacha bein nekeva mafik lahame yibam. In order for a woman to get off the hook, it doesn't make a difference what the child is, whether it's a male or a female. She's off the hook. As long as the man left the zera in this world, whether it's a female or a male, it's irrelevant. However, aval chamus the inami yolda, even if she does give birth, loy zakik la lahach elam ken yolda zacha. She would only go ahead and be able to go ahead and fall to yibam if what? If it was a male. In other words, there's two things over there. One, maybe she gave birth again, and two, even if she gives birth, maybe what? Maybe it's going to be a female. So ad kadei kach. So by the tzara, where all you needed was a baby, regardless, in order for it to be off the hook, rechayish. Conversely, by the mother-in-law, which has to be A, she has to give birth, and B, she has to give birth to a male. That's so far not chayish. What happens if she's pregnant? Yotza malaya, then yotza chamas beberetz cheshesh shem zachu. It's only one chashash, not the whether she's pregnant or not, the whether what it's a zachar or not. And Rabbi Yeshua says, listen to this, Avrami. Maybe she miscarried. And even she didn't miscarry. So you have another factor to throw in here to say that what this should not be even. Okay, so we have two cases: a case of what no child, and a case of no yavam. Yeah. Right. We're going to get into the right. We're going to get to the sleep. It's all. This is all. We're going to get to the right. Speakers, hang in there. We're going to hang in there. We're going to get there. Hang in. Okay. My heat sarasa. It said lashon heat sarasa. She is at Sarah. What does that mean? Hakamashmalan lahot Sarah hu dechashinan. For this Sarah, in other words, if a husband overseas with its Sarah, then we're chayish for that Sarah. Maybe she gave birth. Aval it's Sarah achrita. If there wasn't a tzara, so what would the husband have to do? Marry another one, and then that one get pregnant. Loy chashinon. So he tzarasa, guys. In other words, this whole chayish that she can't do, that she's not free, is why? Is because there is an existing tzara. If there was no existing tzara, we're not chayish that A, the husband's going to marry somebody, and B, that someone's going to have a child, and she would be free if there's no tzara. So that's the lashon of the Mishnah, he tzarasa. Okay, and what's the din? You don't do, she can't get married and she can't do yibum. Again, going overseas, we're chayish that the tzara perhaps what? Gave birth. So if she gave birth, then what? Then if she gave birth, then she would not be able to do yibum. Okay? So bishlema yivum eloi, maybe you know why you can't do yibum. The dilma ibra, maybe she gets pregnant at tzara, the kapaga be'eshes achda raisa. And she'll be marrying one, her brother-in-law, which is a Isav Karis. Right? She married Isav Karis. So that's why you can't do Yibam. Elolai Tinase, why can't she marry somebody in the street? Right? Why can't she marry somebody in the street? Now, what would have to happen for to marry somebody in the street? That is that the tzara gives birth. If the tzara gives birth, then then there's no Yibam, correct? So in other words, to do Yibum, you can't do. Why? Because maybe she gave birth and what, and the makam there's no yibum, and therefore you're marrying your brother-in-law, which is asa. However, if she does give birth, let her get married. What the only thing stopping is that's Yevamot shook. 1 second. Amai holach acharoiv nashim. Why don't we go after the majority of women? For roiv nashim misarbais v'yoldos. Good. So in other words, you should go after the reason. She should be able to marry, then you should go after Roiv.
Most women don't miscarry.
Roiv women give. That's a mir. Most women get pregnant. Okay, that's what you're going to deal with. She gets pregnant. As long as she's pregnant, then she should be able to marry. Why? Well, she can't marry until it gives birth. But I think even when she's pregnant, I in love. You look at her. I in love. We said so. As long as she's pregnant, she should get married. So Yibam, I understand why not. But why can't she be married? Says the Gemara Lema Rebbe Meyahi. Let's say the Mishnah goes according to Rabbi, the Chayish Lamayuta. We know throughout Shas, and we're familiar with this. If you look at this, research Shas, we had Daf Samachayv and Gittin and Bechers. Throughout Shas, we have Rabbi Chayish Lamayuta. Good. Rabbi is Chayish Lamayuta. So Chayish that what? So the miyut over here is that what? That maybe she didn't give birth. Maybe she didn't get pregnant. So therefore, since she didn't get pregnant, she would be what? Still have the Zika, thus she won't be able to marry. Guy's good. Now. And for the Gemara, no, not and for the Gemara states, Afilu Tamer Rabbanon. You could even say the Mishnah goes according to Rabbanon. You're not limited to saying the Mishnah goes according to Reb Meir. Ki Osle Rabbanon Basaruba, Ruba Disakaman. Avaruba Lesa Kaman Le'ez Rabbanon Basaruba. Okay, I skipped a few words. Let's speak this out. There's 2 types of roiv, guys. There's a physical roiv and a statistical roiv. What's a physical roiv? You have in front of you 10 butcher shops, 9 are kosher, and 1 sells treif. You find a piece of meat in the street. You're going after what? The roiv. Is that a statistical roiv or a physical roiv? It's a physical roiv. It's ruva. The issa come on in front of you. You have what? You have the a bezdin, a capital punishment has to be 23. It has to be, it's not already 12, 11, it's got to be 1310. 1310. That's, you're going after Roiv. That's a Roiv that is to come on, it's in front of us. What about Roiv Noshim? Roiv Noshim give birth. Is that a physical Roiv or a statistical Roiv? Yeah. It's a statistical Roiv. So very geschmack. When the Chachamim say that you not Chayish Lamiyuta, you go after Roiv, that's the stronger Roiv, the physical Roiv that's in front of us. But for Ruba, the lesser come on, a shvacha roiv, like a statistic, then they would even agree that you go after the miyut. So they could be the time of the Mishnah as well. Thus, with the miyut, maybe she's not pregnant, we won't let her get married because maybe she's what? She's the Zika is still there. That's the first, that's the attempt at teretz. And for the Gemara, afilu temer rabbanim, it's not a teretz, it's a statement. Ki az the rabbanim basa Ruba, Ruba the issa come on. It's a roiv that's in front of us. Kigayin, Tishach Hanoyos, you have 9 butcher shops that sell kosher meat. The Sanhedrin, and you have the Sanhedrin 23. Avaruba, the lesser come on, it's statistical roiv, like over here, most women give birth, and they will be chayish for a meal. Good. So now we're saying that the Mishnah, we're not limited saying the Mishnah goes according to the Yachid Reb Meir. We can even say it's going according to the Rabbana. Fred Gemara Vari Katan Ukitana, the Ruba the less the Kamonhi, Katan Ukitana, which is a statistical roif. For Oslo Rabbana Basa Ruba, where do you see that? The Tanya Katan Ukitana. Guys, we had this before. Loi Cholzin V'loi Miyabmin. A Katan Ukitana, you can't do Chalitza and you can't do Yibum. Div Reb Meir. Amru Leil Reb Meir. Yafra Amit Shein Cholzin. It makes sense. What you can't do Chalitza. Ish Ksiv Parsha. In the Parsha it says Ish. And there, right, and makshinon isha leish, and we make a hekesh to isha leish. Therefore, she can't do chalitza. Elamatam emiyamnim. What's the reason you can't do yibam? In other words, so obviously the chacham say that a katan or katana could do yibam. Amalahem Reb Meir retorted to the chachamim, katan shema yimtza sris. The reason why a katan can't do yibam is maybe you'll find him to be a saris who's incapable of having children. Katana shema timtza islandess. Maybe she's a woman who's not capable of having children. V'nimtza poigim be'erva, and you find this in erva. So now, is that? So says the one of Rabbana Savi Zilbas Aruba the Katanim Rav Katanim Lav Saris Ninu Zilbas Rav Katanis Rav Katanis Leia Islandis Ninu. So what do you see, guys? That the Chachamim go after rove even by a statistical rove. So your teretz is not a good teretz. El Mechavarta, it's clear Mastisna Reb Meir. The Mishnah is Reb Meir. Okay, outside one more time. What do we want to say? To say the following. We wanted to say that. But the tzara goes overseas, right? If you go after Rav, she should be able to remarry. You said she can't marry. She should be able to get married. I can't do Yibam, but she should be able to get married because Rav women give birth. Says the Gemara. The Mishnah goes according to Reb Meir, who says what? You go after the miyut, and the minority of women don't give birth. If it doesn't give birth, so you didn't break the zika, what? Therefore, she can't get married because she's still what? She's ill zokik to her yavam. Good. That's the Gemara's. Says the Gemara, no, I'm not limited to saying it's the Das Yachid. I can even say it's the Rabbanon, and we make a distinction between a very strong roiv and a very shvach roiv. What's a strong roiv? Ruba Dissa, come on, like 9 butcher shops or the Sanhedrin. What's a shvacha? Is statistical roiv. Roiv Nashim is statistical roiv. The Chachamim would agree by a statistical roiv. You don't go after roiv, you could be chayish namiyot. Therefore, in our Mishnah, which is statistical roiv Nashim give birth, the Chachamim would agree that what? You're chayish that maybe you shouldn't give birth. Fred the Gemara, I'll prove to you that what? That Chachamim, even by a statistical roiv, go after roiv. Where is that? They permit a cotton katana to go ahead and do yibum. Most of them what? Why? Because most of them are capable of having children. Yeah. So what do you see? They go after roiv even by a statistical roiv. Therefore, your chilik between the roivs is not a good chilik. The only one who could be the Tan of the Mishnah is Reb Meir. So that's what we're holding now. That the Tan of the Mishnah is Reb Meir. Very good. Okay. Fred the Gemara now. B'mayu misa Reb Meir. You're saying the Mishnah goes according to Reb Meir. Good. Aim a sefer. Guys, what was the sefer of the Mishnah? The mother-in-law goes overseas with what? We're not chayish. Good. If she has a mother-in-law, is that the mother-in-law gave birth to a child. Amai, why don't you go? My holachech roiv nashim is arbais v'yoldais miyut mapilais. A minority miscarried. The chol yoldais, and anyone who gives birth, mechza zacharim or mechza the kevais. They give birth to what? Half in zachar and half in the kevais. Samech miyut mapilais. Take the miyut minority that go ahead and miscarry. Lemechza and the kevais to the half the kevais. Zacharim miyuta, and the zacharim are now a miyut. And now you're telling me that Reb Meir is chayish l'miyuta v'leichesh. Let's be chayish that what? That the mother-in-law had a male and therefore she's subject to yibum. So why are you not chayish? Again, it must be speaking about a case where it is.
But most
Again, then won't find gun. You have to. The Gemara is naming on a case where obviously the woman could give birth, right? Or else, we'd factor that in. So we're naming on. So says the Gemara, very good question. You're chayish l'miyut. Good, guys. Listen to this miyut. Roiv woman give birth. Good. So this mother-in-law is going to give birth. There's 2 possibilities. She gives 3 possibilities. She miscarries. She gives birth to a male. She gives birth to a female. We only have to be chayish for one thing, giving birth to a male, because that would mean that now the dead brother has a brother. Good. So if you take away the miyut that mapel, you take away the miyut that the half that's a female, and now so what's the real miyut? Is a male. What does a male hold? Yichayish l'miyuta. So let Reb Meir, she shouldn't be able to remarry. So how does the Mishnah say nechasheshes? You told me yichayish, guys. You told me the Mishnah is Reb Meir in the first case, but the sefer obviously what? It's not. So we have to make a chiluk in the Reish in the sefer.
Taking a step back, who said that even is the idea to me is something that's Shlomo Olam right now there's nobody. So we're talking about like me or not. Who says Yibum is only when it's there? It's the boy.
Let me ask you a question. You went through a whole masechta. If you have a husband, right, a husband, and leaves a pregnant woman.
Yeah, but this is still different.
No. If you go after Rabbi, if saying going after Rabbi, she's pregnant. You're going after Rabbi, it's pregnant. Again, if Rabbi woman give birth, you have to chayish. That's what would be chayish over here. Okay. Anyway, says the Gemara Vayta. V'dilma now. So Fred the one for leichush. So leichush. In other words, like Rabbeya, let's be chayish, and therefore she shouldn't be able to be married to the street. It says no Dilma kiven the ischazka l'shuk. Like right. Since kiven the ischazka l'shuk, like chayish, maybe over here, since the mother, there was no guys. The chazaka was what? She's free to the street. There was no other brother. Reisha the ischazka liyibum tisyabim. So Fred the Gemara, since the Mishnah, since Dilma kiven the ischazka l'shuk like chayish. Since what? The chazaka here says she's free. There's no brother. For the Gemara, Reisha is chazak liyibum tisyabein. If that's the case, Reisha, where she's chazak liyibum, because there was no what? There's no child. You should do yibum. You say you don't. You're giving a teretz, guys. What's your teretz? We'll go after the chazaka. In the case of the sefer, we're going after the chazaka. What's the chazaka? That she's free because there's no brother. So therefore, even though there's a miyat that what the mother gave birth, no, the chazaka says not. If you're going to give that teretz, what's the reisha? The reisha is that what? That there is a brother, there's no child. If there's no child, there's ibum. Yeah, we said that what? We said like tisyabim. Says the Gemara, then if that's going to give that teretz, then tisyabim. Some Rav Nachman, Amar Rabbi Avua, reisha the isakaris chashashu. Reisha that there's an issa of karis. Again, you're talking about Eishes ach, we're chayish and you do yibum. Sefer the isalav. Sefer, if she's going to marry to the street, it's just a yivam l'shuk loy chashashu. In other words, it's a chilik. One is the karis, one is an isalav. Fred the Gemara, Amarav Michti, hadaraisa v'hadaraisa, mali yisakaris, mali yisalav. When can we be makel? It's the rabbanon. Once it's a deraisa to get in, well, you're going to go ahead and start your Mishnah novice, right? Go ahead and make a cheshbon, which is a mitzvah kala, mitzvah chamura. It should never be a cheshbon. Once it's deraisa, so your teretz doesn't hold water. If you're chayish, if you're not chayish by karis, by the lav, you won't be chayish by karis. If you're chayish by what? By the lav, you should be chayish by karis, and therefore you should do yibam. So right now, we're stuck, guys. What's akasha? You're telling me, guys, the reisha is Reb Meir, who's chayish l'miyuta. Therefore, we don't let her get married because maybe what? There was the child, the woman to give birth, and therefore she falls to yibum. So in the sefer also, you should be chayish for the mother-in-law. The miyut, maybe it's a male, and she falls to yibum. El lashon charata, el amar Rava on the base says Rava, reisha chazaka liyibum. Reisha is the chazaka, she falls to yibum, guys. Yeah, why? There was no child. The Ruba Lishuk. And the Rav says she goes to the street. Because what does the Rav say? That they had a baby. Guys, let's go. Guys, figure it out. Follow along with Uncle Rabbi Stern. Chazaka, there was no baby, right? So the Chazaka says that what? She's a Yevamot. She's falling to her brother-in-law. What does the Rav say? She's free to go. Because the Rav says there's going to be a baby born. Yeah? The Chazaka loy adif. Rav is stronger than the Chazaka. Kiruba, right? The chazaka of kiruba. For Isa mimuta the mapilis comes along the mita of that what maybe what the woman will go ahead and miscarry. Some of the chazaka and supports the chazaka. Bavle palga. Therefore, leitinasi leitisyabin. Guys, good. Let's go through it. Guys, chazaka says what? She's falling to even or not? What? Chazaka says she's falling to even. There's no boy. Right? What does the Rav say? She's free. Good. What does the miyut say? Maybe what? Maybe even if she gets pregnant, maybe she'll miscarry. So I have a chazaka plus a miyut, which equals a roiv. Therefore, palgo. What do you do? Neither one. Seifa. What about the seifa? Seifa chazaka l'shuk. You know why? There's no brother. There's no brother. Veruba l'shuk. And what? And the Rav is also l'shuk, right? Because even if you're going to give birth, right? Even if you're going to give birth, right? Maybe what? It's going to be mapple, or maybe what? It's going to be a female. V'havi le'sachar miyuta. Miyuta. And the charim are a miyat to miyat, right? It's a miyat, it's a double miyat. Well, miyat to miyuta lechayesh Reb Meir. So in other words, the Mishnah is according to Reb Meir, guys. Guys, the Mishnah is Reb Meir. That's a teretz. And you want to know the difference in the Reisha and the Sefer? Here's the difference. By the Reisha, it's only one miyat. What's the one miyat? Right? Did she give birth or didn't she give birth? Right? That's the only miyat. The Rav is what? The Rav says that what? She's a Yevama. Excuse me. The Chazaka says she's a Yevama. The Rav says she's not. The miyat, the miyat says what? You are a Yevama. So the miyat supports the Rav. Good. Sefer, the Chazaka is you're free. There's no brother. The miyat also supports the Rav. Right? The miyat also supports the Rav, right? A, that what it gives birth, and B, it's going to be mapple. What's the other miyat? A zacha. The miyat doesn't support the Rav. The miyat doesn't support the Rav. It's the miyat, the miyuta, then what? Then you go free. It's all Rameya. Masul Kedvash. Follow along, little cheshbon, good, right? Good. Very understandable. Says the Gemara. Now we said, Loi tinasi v'lodis yabin. Says the Mullah, you're never going to go ahead and let them get married. What is it? What do you want? There's no way to figure this out. Says Rashi. Bitmia. Guys, outside. What's the case? Man goes overseas with a tzara. Comes back to report your husband died. She's not an Eishes Ish anymore. What's the shaila? Whether she's free or not free. She's not an Eishes Ish. That's off the table. The only thing we're chayish for now is Yibum. Is she Yevama or not? If the tzara didn't give birth, she's a Yevama. If the tzara did give birth, she's free. Why does the Gemara Mishnah say, Lo yivumi v'lo tisnase? Don't do Yibum wave Eishes Ish. Lo tisnase, B'meis chayish lamuta. What are you getting involved with all this? Give chalitza. Right. That'll cover your base. If she was Yevama, she's no longer Yevama. And I said, Leitinase, get married. It's an easy way out, clean and neat, right? Do chalitza, you're free. Fred the Gemara Kasha. So Ula Oilam, and Rashi says, Bitmiya. Rashi says, do chalitza b'manam shach. If she didn't give birth, it's nothing. If it is something, if she did give birth, then it's nothing. Amaziri la'atzma shloisha chadashim. She has to wait 3 chadashim. L'chaverta, she has to wait l'tisha. She has to wait an additional 6 months. She has to wait 3 months for havchana, guys. We went through the Masechta, the din of havchana. A woman has to wait 3 months before she marries somebody else. And for chaverta, that she has to wait 6, her 3, another 6, 9 to make sure that she didn't give birth. The chaletzas and then you do chalitza and manushach. Chanina Amar la'atzma shloisha, for herself shloisha, l'chaverta la'olam. For Chava, maybe the Chava give birth, she has to wait forever. So she can't do chalitza. Fred Gemara b'tachlis and manamshach. Right? Abaye barav and Rav China barav and Amri travayu gizera shem yehi Vlad ben Kayama. Maybe what? If you do chalitza, and the tzara gave birth to a Vlad, the nimsa atam at sricha kruz l'kahuna. What are you going to have to do? You're going to have to announce that this woman is not a chalutza. After all, if the tzara gave birth, the chalitza is not a chalitza. It was unnecessary. So go ahead and have the cruise. We had this early in the Masechta. There was someone present at the chalitza. Well, havi becharaza, but they're unfamiliar with the achraza by the public announcement that she's not a chalutza. The Amri kashari chalutza l'kayin, and when she's a married kayin, I don't know why she doesn't marry a non-kayin. Okay, so that's the reason. That's the reason. The reason is because of this problem. Okay, so she has to wait to figure out. It's not 9 months. She has to wait. Oilam means Rashi says that lav dafka oilam b'shvil chaverta tzricha lahamtim la'oilam ad sheteida until she finds out im yesh levadim lav. Okay, it's not. Again, she has to find out whether have a vad or not. No, it's not a punishment. Tanan. Okay, guys, So that's the that's the teretz. Why can't you do chalitza? Gezerah, maybe to a kohen. People might see it chas v'shalom that a kohen marries a chalutza who's not really a chalutza because the woman had given birth to Sarah and you didn't need it, and that's what you're worried about. We're going to ask a question, Stamazai, from something we learned previously. Tanan. What? Chalutza is not a gezerah. It's the rabbanon. We saw gerusha. It's a gerusha and chalutza, right? It's not gezerah. It's the rabbanon gedin. Says the Gemara. Tanan. Nitein li ben b'medina sayom. She goes across. Guys, she leaves. She doesn't have a kid, so she's in the chazaka of falling to Yibum. And she reports the following: when I went overseas, I was pregnant. I got pregnant. I had a child. V'amr, and she tells us meis b'ni v'achakach baili. So therefore, what? I am now a yavam. In other words, she hasn't changed the chazaka. That means she's believed. Peshas peshita. Meis baili v'akach b'ni. But if she says my husband died and then my son died, ain't an menace. However, v'choshen l'dvarel v'choletz is lemis yabenes. Good. She needs chalitza. Edom will come and say it's true that the she died first and then the son died, and therefore she's the chalitza, not a chalitza. So why aren't you worried about that? Papa begrusha. You know why? She's a gerusha. So she wound up marrying to a kohen in the first place. She's a gerusha. Or else Rav Chia Brei Rav Huna Amei Ba'amru Ani v'hu nechbo b'mara. We were in a cave and there went away them, so therefore there's nothing to worry about. In that case, you give chalitza and there's no chashad that any umglik is going to come out of it, because the people will they Edom won't come and say they'll think that's really it's a chalutza. Okay. Says the Gemara, Shtei Yevamos zu emeres meis baili v'zu emeres baili. Okay, guys, going back in time, two dinim. One, is a woman believed to say her husband died? Yes. Is a tzara believed to say on the other one the woman died? Tzara is one of the 5 women that's not believed, right? We said that Sarah would hate her husband because she hate her co-wife because she's sharing the husband. Okay, so now listen to this lumdus, guys, unbelievable lumdus. Shtei Yevamos zu emeres meis baili v'zu emeres meis baili. Each one says their husband died. Reuven said, Eshes Reuven says, my husband Reuven died. Eshes Shimon says what? And there, and what? Okay, now Asura. You know why the asa? Asura they baila shel zu v'zu asura. If they baila shel zu v'zu asura, if they baila shel zu. Each one, I said Sarah, I meant Yevamot. Each one, guys, is neman on their own husband, but there's still the zikas yibum. So in other words, their belief, guys, there's 2 problems over here, guys. Eshes ish, and you're a Yevamot. If Reuven's dead, you're a Yevamot to Shimon. If Shimon's dead, you're a Yevamot to Reuven. Good. Each one is believed on their own husbands, but each one is not believed what on the other one. So therefore, Asura, they're us to be married. Okay. Baila shel zu, v'zu Asura, baila shel zu. Lezu Edim, one Eshes Reuven has Edim that Reuven died. Ulezu ein Edim, and Shimon's wife does not have Edim. Figure it out, guys. So listen, Reuven's wife will not be able to remarry. She has Zika. You know why? Because there's no one testifying that the Zika is broken. Shimon's wife, on the other hand, will be able to marry because you have Edim that Reuven died, and therefore there's no Yavam. The Yavam's dead. There's only 2 brothers, Reuven and Shimon. Good. So now, the Zu Edim or Zu Ein Edim, Eshiesh La Edim, Reuven's widow has Edim. Asura will be Asura to marry. Why? Good, she's not an Eshes Ish, but she's not. But Shimon's widow is not believed to say on that Shimon's dead vis-a-vis Reuven's widow. The Es She'en La Edim, however, Shimon's widow Muteres, she'd be able to get married. You know why? Because she's not being simich on Eshes Reuven. You have Edim that Reuven died. Lezu banim lezu ein banim. This one has children. Reuven's wife has children, and Shimon's wife doesn't. Right? Es sheyesh le banim muteres. Why? She's not an Eshes, guys. Why? Because she's believed to say my husband's dead. She's not a Yevama because she has children. Ve'es she'en le banim asura. You know why? Because you have no one being made on it that her zika is broken to Reuven. Okay, now what happens in the following case? The first case, guys. Reuven, Shimon, you got two other brothers, you have Levi and Yehuda. So now, Reuven's wife says she's not an Eshes Ish. Shimon's wife, she says not an Eshes Ish, but they can't marry each other because they're not believed. So what do? They fall to Yibum. Good. There's Reuven's dead, Shimon's not there, but you got two brothers. So Yehuda marries what? Reuven's widow, and Levi marries Shimon's widow. Okay. Now, what happens? So now, Umesu Hayavamim, and what? They die. So now they die. What's the din? Are they free to go free or not? Why would you say they're not? Because you still have the Zika of Reuben and Shimon. Good, it was taken off by Levi of Yehuda, but there's still that is still there. Whereas what? Rabbi Lezer says it's not there. Assuringly not say this. They're also to marry. Rabbi Lezer, since they mutter to Levi and Yehuda, they mutter to each person. Since they mutter to Levi and Yehuda, they mutter to each person. Guys, 3 lines up from the bottom, 4 lines up from the bottom. Umesu hayavamim asur li nase l'shuk zu mifnei baila harishon shel zu because of Ruvain, the zu mifnei baila harishon shel zu because of Shimon. Shema adayin chayim heim, even they might be alive. They married Levi of Yehuda and the Chazaka that Reuben and Shimon were dead. Eitzel atzim their menace. Eitzel themselves they believe. Aval achshav kishinisu l'shuk nimse dusha shel zu moyalu zu. Right? Now they want to marry to the street. Nimsa that what? That the Adis who's the Adis that what? That Reuben died. Guys, look at me. Look at the cheshbon. When Reuben's widow, Eshes Reuben says, my husband's dead. And she has a Yevamot, Levi. Good? Yep, that's it. Eshes Shimon says, Shimon is dead. She has a Yevamot, Yehuda. Good? So they're believed on themselves that they're free birds. But once Levi and Yehuda are out of the picture, to allow them to marry in the street, you have to say that what? That Reuven's dead and Shimon's dead. Reuven's dead and Shimon's dead is based on each other's testimony. They're not believed. It's a fascinating love this. Yeah, it's not going backwards. It's not going backwards. Again, go through the motion. A woman is believed to say, my husband's dead. Good. So now, Reuven said, Shimon said, this is dead. Now, to each other, you're saimich on each one to matter the other one. But vis-a-vis Levi Yehuda, that they're free birds. They're dead husband with live brothers. That's Yibum. But once they're out of the picture, you're just going back to step one. It's not that we revert. You're not reverting to anything. For them to remarry to the street, it would have to be machmas the edus of each other. That you can't do.
Doesn't that not cost the Zika?
No. The Zika is to Levi Yehuda. There's that again. It doesn't knock it off. It doesn't knock it off again because you vis-a-vis the street, Reuven and Shimon are still alive. They're still alive. How do you know they're dead? They're still alive. That's what Rashi's telling you. They're still alive vis-a-vis what? Reuven and Shimon vis-a-vis the Eidos of the two. However, Rabbi Lezer, I'm a hoyel v'hutru l'yivamim hutru chaladam. Okay, that's what he says. Tana l'zu edim ubanim. Eshes Reuven has edim that Reuven died and has children. Ulezu lo edim leibanim. And Shimon's wife does not have edim and does not have banim. Guys, let's go through it. Reuven's wife has two things: edim and what? And banim. So she's a free bird. Why? She has children, so she has no yibum. She has edim, and she doesn't even need the edim. But you can see she has edim, and therefore she's a free bird. She can marry the street. Shimon has neither, no children and no edim. She's also a free bird. She's not an Eshes Ish. Why? She's believed by herself, and there's no one to do yibum because Reuven's dead, and we have edim that Reuven's dead. So you're not being samech on Eshes Reuven. Tunnel l'zu edim ban l'zu lo edim leibanim shtei mutaris. Good. Now, what about the last case in the Mishnah? Nisyamu umesu hayabamim masuli nase. That last case. Rabbi Lezer Now, boy Rava, listen to this shaila, guys. It goes to the guts of the shaila. Boy Rava, my time with the Rebbe Lazar. When Rebbe Lazar says that Eshes Ruvain and Eshes Shimon can marry, what's the reason? Mishum dekasava tzara me'idol chaverta. A tzara can go ahead and what and testify. Meaning, guys, Rebbe Lazar argues on the Mishnah about 5 women, that this would not be one of the 5 women. In other words, maybe the reason is they do away with the whole thing. So if that's the case, really, then why did he wait to argue in the case where Yevamot was done? They could have said it by the case of Shimon, without getting Levi and Yehuda involved. The Gemara is going to ask this a kasha. But again, guys, you hear? Maybe the reason for Rebbe Lazar is, Frank Nishan, the whole thing doesn't begin. You know why? Because each one is believed on each other, not only on themselves, but on each other as well. Ruvain's dead. Eshes Shimon doesn't have a Yavam. Shimon's dead. Eshes Ruvain doesn't have a Yavam. And they don't have a husband. Or no. Aidilma Mishum the he loy mekalkala nafsha. She won't be mekalkal herself. If Ruvain was really alive, right, there's no way she would go ahead and marry Shimon, or marry Levi. The fact that she's marrying Levi shows that must be that Ruvain is really dead. Thus, when Levi dies, and the same thing by Eshes Shimon, when she's out of the picture, must be that what? In other words, she won't go ahead and mess herself up if not she's telling the truth. So really, it's Sarah is not believed. And therefore, what? In the case where there was no other brothers, they couldn't be married. But with his other brothers, since she married a brother, it must be that the husband's really dead, because there's no way in the world she would go ahead and put herself in that situation. So in other words, is it a din in their manis that they believe, right? Or no, it's a din that she won't be mekalkal herself. Guys, what would the nafkamina be if the tzara marries first? If it's a din in their manis that she's believing on the tzara, then the tzara would be able to marry before her. But if it's a svara that she wouldn't mess herself up, she would have to get married first to go ahead and put herself in the situation to not mess herself up to matter the tzara. That would be the nafkamina. Says the Gemara, Lamai nafkamina, Amid Aleph, Lansuvil tzara mekame dida, to have the tzara marry what? Before her. If you're going to say like the first sad, that the whole thing doesn't begin, that she's believed on the tzara, afal gavloy insiv, even if she doesn't marry, minasvina le tzara, then you'll be able to marry the tzara, even Reuven didn't marry. If she married, then misvina le tzara. If she didn't marry, loy misvina le. What's the din? Beautiful, beautiful shaila, guys. So in other words, again, you hear the Tutstadim. Does he disagree totally on the whole tzad that the tzara taka would be believing in the tzara, and nafkamina would be if she married or kilkal nafsha, nafkamina would be could the tzara get married first? If it's a din in their manas, the tzara can get married before Eshes Ruvain. If not, Eshes Ruvain would have to get married to put herself in the position of being mekalkal in order to permit Eshes Shimon. Tashma, Rebbe Lezer Omer, Hoyel v'hutzru liyavamim. Since the mutter to Levi Yehuda, they can marry anybody else. If you say very good, the svara is because she won't be mekalkal herself. That's when she married Levi. Minasvina law. Then the tzara can get married. If you say it's a din in belief, nami. Even if Eshes Shimon Reuven didn't get married, the tzara should be able to marry. In other words, guys, the kasha is the following. If Elazar argues in the whole yisoid of Nemanis that a tzara is believed, why do they have to say that in such a funny case? What's the funny case? The funny case is, when does Rabbi Elazar first start talking? When Eshes Reuven married Levi. If it's a din in Nemanis, even if she didn't marry Levi, then Eshes Shimon should be able to get married. But no, Rebbe Elazar only argued when she went married. So it must be that what? It's a svara that what? Only she won't be mekalkal herself, and therefore it provides the emonis to Eshes Shimon. Guys, you good? Case of the Mishnah, very good. Says the Gemara, that must be the svara. Alishmamina. Time of the Rebbe Elazar, Mishum in Nisivhu, V'lem Mekalkal Nafsha. Says the Gemara, no, you have no raya. Rebbe Elazar l'deveim ka'amalahu. Rabbi Elazar was saying according to the words of the Chachamim. Lididi, according to me, Sarah me'idah l'chaverta. But Sarah could go ahead and be made l'chaverta, and therefore, what even before he married Levi, she would believe to go ahead and marry, and Shimon's Esha Shimon could be married. Even if Esha Reuben didn't get married, Esha Shimon could get married. Minasvinallah will marry Esha Shimon. Like you, who says no. Nonetheless, the heichid the insiv minasvinallah mishum dehila mekalkul nafsha. In other words, guys, it could be they're retorting. The whole reason for that case is Rav Shimon is Rav Elazar telling the Chachamim, I hold even if Levi and Yehuda weren't in the picture, Esha Shimon can get married. But you who don't agree, you say that she's one of the 5 women who's not believed, be murdered to me when Esha Reuven does remarry and puts herself up for in a situation of Esha Ish married somebody, another man, that be murdered to me that you believe. That's why I said. And what the Chachamim say? Says the Chachamim, no. Says the Chachamim, for Rabbanan, even if she remarries, Thomas Nafshi implishtim, who the kavda. She'll commit suicide. That's the lesson Shimon. You know, the hatred is so great. The hatred is so great. She'll go ahead and she'll commit suicide. She's willing to commit suicide because even in other words, commit suicide by marrying the man, even though her husband didn't die. And why her hatred is so great? She want to mess up Esha Shimon. She'll be married. That's what Rabbanan say. It's Nishkan Maya. Guys, you good? Well, let's make it to the Mishnah. Tashma. A woman, she and her husband goes overseas. Uba, she comes to Amra. Mace Bailey, my husband's dead. What's the din? Tina says she can get married. V'titel ksubasa, and she collects a ksuba. V'tzarasa asura, and a tsara would be asa. Rav Elazar Aimer, hoyel v'hutrihi hutru nami tzarasa. So guys, what's the mashma? It's a din nemanis, right? Rav Elazar says openly that she's believed on herself. And she's believed on Sarah. Says Ema Hoyel v'Hutra v'Nisas. No, don't say since v'Hutra v'Nisas. Not only did she say she's the dead, but v'Nisas she backed it up by getting married. Therefore, that Sarah can marry. Why? Because the time is out. She won't be Mekalkal herself. You know, 1 second. Really, the husband's alive, and she's not being Mekalkal herself, right? Not being Mekalkal herself, right? She Mekalkal with Sarah. You know why she told that Sarah is dead? Because she'll remarry. You know why? She's got to get. Sarah doesn't know that, and now that Sarah is the Ashes Ish, so really hates Sarah. The reason she said the husband's dead is the calcul of Sarah. Chavna says, "Either insively Yisrael lachanami." You'd be right. If she's married to Yisrael, she won't be believed because maybe she has to get. The insiv l'koyin. She's married to a koyin, so we don't have to take into account the chashash that maybe that she is a Adirabba. She's a grusha anyway, right? So therefore, what? No, she can't marry a kohen. She's a grusha. In this case, so you're not worried about that she's a get, because then in other words, she's not Mekalkal herself.
There's a lot. That's clear. So the answer.
What do you mean?
The first one, she's saying she'll.
Can I make a kasha?